Here we are. Let's preview the final week of the season up next on Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5 on Friday, September 22nd. I am Frank Samfeld, joined by Scott White. Let's take a look at the schedule for the final week of the season. 4 teams with 7 games. The Rangers, Mariners, Dodgers, and Rockies. 22 teams with 6 games and 4 teams with just 5 games. The Nationals, Rays, Guardians, and the Reds. As for those Rockies, by the way, all 7 of their games are at home in Coors Field, 4 against the Dodgers and 3 against the Twins. Starter sit these fringe 2-star pitchers, Scott, and we will begin with Mitch Keller at the Phillies and home against the Marlins.
All right, so let's slow it down for just a second here because you mentioned the schedule there. Not a lot of games, not a lot of 2-start options, and probably even fewer 2-start options than we think since it is the last week of the season. Teams are free to color outside the lines as much as they want. And so a lot of these pitchers are going to have their second start dropped either because they're being rested for the postseason, which will mostly be high-end types like Kevin Gausman, potentially Luis Castillo, George Kirby, guys you'd start whether they're making 1 start or 2, but anybody could be dropped just because the team inserts an extra starter this week. So I think what we landed on in the full length podcast is you kind of have to approach this final week as if nobody's making 2 starts. The pitchers we talk about here are the most likely to, but you can't presume they actually will. And so you need to be very careful. You need to make sure you like that first matchup, especially if you're going to use them. And you need to make sure there isn't a better 1-star pitcher on your roster than any theoretically 2-star pitcher that you might be questioning. So Mitch Keller, I think, is not an automatic start this week. He's had extreme ups and downs recently. And so if it's a roto league and you're preserving ERA and WHIP, if you're chasing wins and strikeouts, it's one thing. Obviously, you're trying to get as many starts in there as you can. But if you're preserving ERA and WHIP in a roto league, maybe steer clear of Mitch Keller. Again, if you're chasing wins or strikeouts, or if it's a points league, I think absolutely you start Keller.
All right, Braxton Garrett is at the Mets and at the Pirates.
So it's even more likely Garrett loses that second start, misses out on that second start than most of these pitchers because the Marlins are going to insert Sandy Alcantara in their rotation at some point this week and may have 6 different guys starting their 6 games. So keep that in mind. But those are really good matchups for Braxton Garrett, a pitcher who's been really reliable lately. So I lean yes on him.
Bryce Elder is home against the Cubs and home against the Nationals.
So this is a case where the second matchup is the better one. And the Braves could absolutely choose to rest Elder for the playoffs rather than have him make that second start. But in theory, at least in points leagues, I'd run him out there. I'm not sure the strikeout upside is enough for categories leagues.
All right. Adrian Hauser at home against the Cardinals and home against the Cubs.
Don't love it, but if you're really selling out for as much volume as you can, you could do worse than Adrian Hauser.
Tanner Houck, home against the Rays and at the Orioles.
Yeah, same thing I said for Hauser. You could do worse. It's not something I'm going to try in most leagues, though.
All right, we don't have much time left, Scott, but who are your favorite sleeper hitters for next week?
Are we going to skip the pitchers?
What'd I say, hitters? I meant pitchers.
Pitchers. All right, Michael King. You got to start Michael King coming off that 13 strikeout effort. He's at Toronto, at Kansas City, and I think there's a very good chance he makes those 2 starts, given the position the Yankees are in and where King is in terms of innings. Ryan Pepio, this is a risky one if he misses out on that second start because the first one's at Colorado, but with the way Pepio's pitched lately, I don't think it matters so much who he's facing. Reese Olson going against the Royals and Guardians, like those 2 matchups, he's been good of late. Kenta Maeda, the first of his 2 starts is against the Athletics, so you like that. The second at Colorado, a little scary. You almost hope he misses out on that one. But in theory, you're going to get 2 starts out of Maeda. And then finally, Paul Blackburn. I like him for points leagues, if nothing else. At Minnesota, they get a lot of strikeouts. At the Angels, they don't have many good hitters left. A few 1-start sleepers if you need them. Ranger Suarez against the Pirates. Gavin Williams at the Tigers. Sawyer Gibson-Long against the Royals, Edward Cabrera at the Pirates, and Bailey Ober against the Athletics.
On the hitter side, the best matchups for next week, the Twins, Dodgers, Rockies, Braves, and D-backs. The worst hitter matchups, Nationals, Cubs, Mets, Rays, and Astros. Scott, 10 sleeper hitters the final week.
All right, Jorge Polanco. Those matchups are against the A's for 3 and at Colorado for 3. I think Polanco's well suited to take advantage of that. Other hitters who can take advantage of Coors Field, James Outman of the Dodgers, and highly available is Jason Hayward. He's had a big month of September, does sit against lefties, but only one of them on the schedule. Those two outfielders can take advantage of those 4 games at Coors Field. We also have Jake Berger. You're going to want to pay attention to make sure he returns this weekend from the leg injury he suffered Wednesday, but he was talking like it shouldn't miss any time with that. Chris Bryant and Charlie Blackmon, if you want to take advantage of that full week of home games for the Rockies, they're your best bets. Diamondbacks, you mentioned, have the 5th best matchups. That's good news for Tommy Pham, who's been hot. And I also like Evan Carter and Ryan O'Hearn. They've been productive lately. Their matchups are middle of the road, but Carter's on one of the teams that play 7 games, and O'Hearn has only 1 lefty on the schedule, so he should play a lot.
All right, for more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the Audacy app, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5, and we'll be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.